Welcome to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, where we sit down with the people who give shape, texture, and voice to life on the North Fork of Long Island. Some are rooted here by generations, others arrive by chance or choice, but all carry with them a piece of the story. We talk about what's changing, what's worth holding on to, and the currents of history, both quiet and loud, that run through this place. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi, and for episode 193, we're joined by Julia King, a singer, songwriter, and performing artist whose music carries soul, sincerity, and a strong sense of place. Raised on a family chicken farm on the South Fork of Long Island, music was always close to her heart. During college, she spent formative time in Nashville, a city whose creative pulse and music culture left a lasting impression, even if her path hadn't turned fully towards songwriting just yet. After graduating, Julia spent the next decade working in the Long Island wine industry, building a life rooted in community and connection and craft, but music, always present in the background, eventually became impossible to ignore. Now based on the North Fork, Julia has become a vital part of the region's growing original music scene, bringing her voice, her stories, and her authenticity to a stage hungry for new sounds and honest song. With releases like Radiotherapy and Inside Out, she's proven herself an artist unafraid to evolve, reflect, and step into the truth of her own voice. Today we talk about the winding journey that brought her back to music, the influences that shaped her, and the creative community she's helping to build right here on the East End. So I hope you enjoy episode 193 with Julia King. This episode was recorded July 1st, 2025. Thank you so much for coming on the Floyd Memorial Library podcast today. I'm really looking forward to talking to you.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
Great.
And so usually in the beginning, I usually like to ask people a little bit about their background. If you can give us a little bit about your roots or ancestry out here on Long Island. And we can go into more detail later, but just maybe how far back your ancestry goes out here.
Yeah, so I grew up on the South Fork, and my family has been over there probably since like the 1600s. And, you know, in various different ways, I'm assuming, but we're farmers. I grew up as a farmer, and my grandfather was a farmer, and his father kind of started that, and my parents still own the farm over in Southampton now. And so long time South Fork family.
Wow. And were you able to talk with your grandparents about what they thought growing up as a farmer?
Oh, yeah. I loved my grandparents. They sadly passed away in 2016, but I was very, very close with them. And my grandmother grew up in Port Washington, but my grandfather's, that kind of side of that family, my dad's family, he lived on that property that my parents still run for years, like his entire life, basically. And so many stories.
Yeah.
How things change, et cetera, et cetera.
So did your parents kept it going? Is it still operating?
It's still operating.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're still doing it. It's mostly a chicken farm.
Okay.
So chickens and eggs, and in season, my dad specializes in like tomatoes, lettuce, and other crops that grow well out here.
And what about for you? How was it as a child growing up on the farm?
Oh, well, I mean, there's so many different ways you could go. That's, sometimes I'm like, ooh, that's a loaded question. But, in my current adjusted state, I look back a lot, and when I tell people that I grew up on a farm, they're like, wow, what a cool way to grow up. And I'm like, yeah, actually, like it is quite unique. At the time when you're working all the time and you don't really have a choice, it doesn't really feel great. But, looking back, I learned so many skills, and honestly, I had so much freedom as a kid. And sometimes it felt like, oh, no one's paying attention to me, and they weren't really, but it gives you so much freedom to like explore the world and be in your own head and create stories. And that's, I feel like, where my storytelling and kind of fantasy world comes, because I had to entertain myself. We had no TV and internet and things like that. So you had to just go out on the farm and like find fun, So
Yes.
it's very cool.
Yeah. And what about going through a middle school and high school? Was that were you interested in music or in terms of your creativity at that time?
Yeah. So I had literally from so young, probably even before I can remember, and I just hear stories from like aunts and uncles and things, and like I've just been singing my whole life, like just always loved nursery rhymes, lullabies, like all sorts of things. And I got into musical theater. My dad was big in the church. He was the youth minister when I was younger, and I was involved in church plays, and then it went into like elementary school plays, middle school plays. So that's kind of how I got my fix of performance and singing and acting and everything like that. Because I loved it. I always loved music. And, to go back to what I was saying before on the farm, you're kind of always alone. Like I was alone a lot. I'm the youngest of three. And my parents, they worked right down the street. So they'd leave us a lot and at a young age. And my dad had a great music selection. Like he's really good taste in music. And so I would just put on CDs and just pretend that I was like a part of the band, and if I hadn't had that alone time by myself, like I might have never kind of explored that and felt that connection with those people and the words that they were saying and everything like that. So,
yeah. And even through, because you mentioned staying at home quite a bit, but what about in high school? What did you think of Southampton at that time, hanging out and?
The Hamptons is the Hamptons, but being a local in the Hamptons is a very different thing than the tourism that everybody sees. It's in the wintertime, very much like Greenport is in the wintertime. It's dead. Like there's nothing going on. You'd go to school, you do your after school sports, you do your, I was in theater and sports and all sorts of things. And, it's a unique experience. It's still a beautiful place in the wintertime. And, although somewhat desolate and not much to do, it's like, it is really beautiful. And I think that, being surrounded by such beauty is also very inspiring, and when I went away to college and I was kind of landlocked in a city, I realized how much the East End mattered to me. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much the water and like the kind of natural landscape always there really meant to me until I left. And so. And
then just coming out of high school, did you know exactly what you wanted to do as a career, or? You earned a degree in exercise science.
Right. So when I like always wanted to do music, and I was like, but everyone, I didn't grow up with any money, and so they're like, well, cool, that's great, but get a real job, and I was like, damn you, this is a job. But so I decided, I went to Belmont University down in Nashville because they had a great music business program. And so I was like, all right, cool. Well, music business is a real job and it's adjacent to being a musician. So let me go down there for that, and I can work on my artistic career as I go. And in theory, it was a good idea. Part of me wishes that I stuck with that idea. But, everyone's path goes in so many different ways. But when I was studying the music business in Nashville, I remember being in one of my classes my first semester and being like, I am the artist in this situation. I'm like, I just don't care about this stuff. Like, and at the time, I'm like, I really wish I didn't think that, because it probably would be really helpful for me right now. But I'm the type of person where like, I'm smart if I want to do it. If I'm really invested in something, I will learn everything about it that I can. But if I'm not interested in it, I don't care. And so I was like, well, I have to succeed at college, so I have to find something that I care about. So I segued in couple different ways, but I ended up in exercise science. I come from a family of nurses, and so science was always, I was very good at science. And so I thought, I was like, oh, I could be a PT, a physical therapist. And the pre to that was exercise science. And I had just gotten into fitness quite a bit and healthy eating and things like that. And so I ended up doing that, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
But just from there, what kind of pulled you back into songwriting or music?
Yeah, that's where this is like where my story starts to get very like, what was she doing for like, how many years, and how did she get back here? Because like I said, music was always my dream. It was my dream since as long as I can remember. And I didn't have a family that could support me financially. And so I had to figure out how to follow a dream and still support myself in the life that I would like to live. Like, I didn't want to be super broke my whole life, because I already had lived that, and I don't really want to do that. I didn't want to push that into my future.
Yeah.
And so I kind of was just like, I feel like for 4 or 5 years of my life, literally like wheeling and dealing in careers, because I was trying to figure out what it was that I could stick with and make money while still pursuing my passion of music, because that was always my dream. And it was always in the back of my head, my focus. And so I graduated in exercise science, and even before I graduated, I was working as a personal trainer for a while, and I really loved it. And it was, somewhat fulfilling, but I couldn't commit to going on to, I was thinking about med school. I was thinking about PT school. And I was like, I can't commit like that amount of money in, cause I was like, I don't have any. So I'm not 100% set on anything. So let me just take a break and figure it out. And so I graduated, traveled Europe for like a couple months, and then I lived in the Dominican for a couple months. I took a year off, like a gap year after college, and then my whole direction just kind of changed after that, because I was like, I don't want to do. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, and so I actually, ended up segueing into wine, because I moved back home, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do now, because I'm like totally abandoned my whole vision of my life, because I've just traveled for a year, and I've just learned things about myself that I just never knew. And so I started waitressing, as any early 20-year-old would do, and I discovered the wine industry. And so I realized that you can make money drinking wine, basically, as a sommelier. And I was like, oh, this is a job. The place I was working at was new, and they were like, you have a really good palate, like, come taste the wine. And I was like, this is the coolest job ever. And so I started looking into it, and my aunt was like, yeah, sommelier is a job, like, that's a thing. And I was, oh, wow. So I went back to school for wine, and so I studied wine for like 7 years. I worked in the wine industry for 10 years, which brought me here, because I was living in the city. I was living in the city working at wine retail, and then I hated this. I couldn't. It was my second stint in the city, and I was like, I just don't belong here. And so I moved back out to the North Fork, because there's just more opportunity out here for wine, and that's kind of what brought me here.
Okay. And was there, because I know you mentioned Nashville for, that was for your undergrad, but was there, what did you think of Nashville at that time? Because you said that was important, at least at that time, going there.
Oh, yeah.
But you weren't interested in going back there later. Right.
So Nashville was amazing. Like, I loved, my college experience was very unique and very cool, because Nashville is just a really, really unique city. And especially, well, God, how many years ago was it at this point? Back in the early 2000s, it was way different than it is now. It's so smaller, all the built up and the Bachelorette, that wasn't a thing when I was there. It was very much like honky tonks, bars, music, really good music everywhere. And I learned I would say everything I know about songwriting from my friends that I had then, and just my experience being there and being challenged, because back then in Nashville, I mean, when you come from a small town and you might be the best in your town, you go to Nashville and you're humbled very quickly, at least at that time, you know. And because everyone and their mother and their little brother can rip and sing, and like you're just like, okay, like I have a lot of work to do. And so I think it really challenged me in a good way. And I had a friend whose nickname was Alabama Dan, and he was like a year older than me in school, and he was an amazing songwriter. He was from Alabama, obviously, and really great guitar player and just a brilliant songwriter. I'm surprised he's like not doing anything else right now, because he's just brilliant. And he really taught me everything I know about how to shape a song. And we would always exchange songs, and he'd be like, nah, you got to do this. Like, or, you know, he was hard on me in a good way. And I just learned so much from that experience, and being in that atmosphere of like, you know, I don't know if you know the band Moon Taxi, but like they're somewhat popular now, and they were like our party band like back in school, which is like so cool. And now to see them in their career and how it's grown, and I'm like, that was such an amazing situation that I was in, you know, and I learned so much, so influenced in a great way.
Yes. And now you mentioned the wine industry and coming back here, but when did you really start getting involved or playing, not produce, I guess performing? Performing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that when I was my first stint living in the city, when I was working at a Equinox gym as a trainer, I think I was 20, I was 23 probably. And I started going to open mics because I was really starting to write a lot, and I was getting a little more confident on guitar, because like guitar is just, I learned guitar, I taught myself how to play just because I wanted to write. And so I'm still just a solid rhythm player, but can't have all the skills. And I started doing some open mics in the city, and that's kind of when I left the exercise world, because I was like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, I want to be a singer. And I was like, I don't know what else to do now, because I can't do this. I don't want to live here. And, you know, I don't know how I can't, you know, balance these both careers. So I would say I was like in my early 20s in Brooklyn doing open mics. And then I moved home, and I did a couple on the South Fork. And then I moved over here, and there's so much music everywhere. And so I was working at a winery, and the musicians would come in every weekend, and I was like, this is great. This is so cool. And I would like, you know, talk, I'm a songwriter, I met so many people so quickly. And a good friend of mine, I don't know if you're familiar with John DeVello. He is a musician out here. And he would always let me play like a couple songs at his gigs. And we were all friends, a big group of friends. And he would pull me up and be like, you're good. Like, just play a couple songs. I want to take a break. And I was like, I can do this. You know, it's like, I can do this. And that's really what started my transition from, you know, working in the wine industry to starting to gig on the weekends more frequently, and then full time.
Around what year was that you were starting to?
So I moved here in 2012.
Okay.
So 2012, 2013, 14 and 15, I was like gigging a little, like at least maybe like a couple times a month. I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, like a couple times a month maybe. So it's just getting started. And I think, yeah, my dates could be a little skewed, but my first EP came out in 2016. And then I went full time in 2019 when which was, you know, to transition to pandemic talk for 5 minutes. It's like, you know, I was like, finally, I was like full time, like going crazy, like just taking the leap of faith. And, I had a great year that year. 2019 was an awesome year for music for me. I was playing more than I ever had.
You released your first album, Radio Therapy.
Right. Yeah. So I've been working on that album all that year. And then January 2020, I released my first full-length album right before, sadly, the pandemic hit. So I was like on a total high because everything was really going well, and I had all this momentum that I've been building literally my whole life. And I had been working to this moment for my whole life, and then it kind of got robbed right out from under me, which sucked like a lot, and it was very difficult. Very, very difficult time for me personally, just because that, like, I was at the highest point in my career that I'd ever been at, that I've been working at forever, and then it was just cut out from under me for 5 years, which is very difficult, but we kept going. I had so many experiences actually over the pandemic. I mean, the people out here were so supportive. The bar and restaurant owners and things like that. There was a real solid handful of people who kept us going. And I had a lot of opportunities to do and play with people and in different ways that I never would have had it not happened. So there's, like, I always look at that as a silver lining. Like, a girlfriend of mine from Brooklyn, we had the same guitarist at the time, and so she came out a lot, and so I had this opportunity to sing harmony that I always wanted to learn how to get better at it. And I had that beautiful, but, jaded opportunity to do that. And now I feel so confident doing it. And, all sorts of little things here and there that, were silver linings of that period of time. Where it was pretty cool.
But you were saying that going into 2019 and early 2020 was when you were...
It was like the highest point of my career. Oh, yeah. My album was charting. Like, I mean, not... We weren't number one or anything, but, it was... I had put a lot of money behind, like promotion and things like that. And it was going, it was moving, and I was getting like a real vision for myself as an artist, and where I was going, and it was a real high point. It was a real amazing. I had a release party at Green Hill Kitchen, and it was packed, like totally packed. It was just such a ball. It was such a culmination of so many years of torture, of torturing myself through all sorts of different things, and fighting for this dream. And I kind of leave that as like, okay, that was a moment, and everything that happened after that was, I had to learn, I guess. It was an unfortunate situation that, good and bad things, and we're picking up the pieces still sometimes a little bit.
And I was curious, just with your first album, could you talk a little bit about what you were going for and when you wanted to release, what type of style you were looking to achieve?
Radiotherapy is actually an interesting album because, so first and foremost, I'm a songwriter. And a singer, I suppose, but like songwriting is really like where I start from, I suppose. And I don't really fit into a particular genre. I don't think personally. And I think because as a songwriter, I don't really say, oh, I only write country songs or I only write rock and roll. Like, I'm influenced by so many different types of music, and I love like almost every different type of music. I'm sure a song in every genre at least. And so I take all those influences and I go for emotion first. I'm like, well, what emotion am I trying to convey here? And how does it feel inside? When I'm writing it, like, how does this song feel to me? Like, is this a sad, like, I want everyone in tears song? Or is this a little more rock and roll sad song, or a kind of upbeat, whatever it might be. And I try and kind of convey that. And with Radiotherapy, the intention was kind of every song is like a change in the dial, like a change in the dial of the radio. Because it went anywhere from like kind of R&B to country to heavy metal and or like kind of obscure rock and roll. This, there was like all sorts of different emphasis on different genres, but a little bit of everything, of me in each song. And the intention, it was a concept album, and it was intentionally like a portfolio. Like, these are all the types of things that I can do, and here it all is in one package.
Yes.
So it was kind of, what did my fiance say? He goes, "Oh, it's just all your personalities." And that's why the cover too, I had, Verona, Verona from
Yes.
Dame. Yeah. She did the cover. It was the first time we worked together. It was very cool. And she did all like different, it's like almost like the Marilyn Monroe blocks, but it's like all different emotions. Like, I'm angry, I'm happy, I'm cool, whatever it is. And so that kind of is the whole portrait of that album, is like, it's the range of emotions that everybody goes through in all sorts of different things. And I loved it. I mean, making that album was so much fun, and
Yes.
I'm still really proud of it, but it's definitely like a moment in time at this point.
Yes.
So it's,
And what about your lyrics? You've said your lyrics are intimate and meant to help listeners feel seen and understood. How do you approach your writing songs?
so a lot of how I write is experiential, whether I'm observing a situation or I've lived the situation, or maybe I read about it and it really moved me, and I could relate to it in some way, shape, or form. And so what I remember, to tie back to when I was talking about all the music, and I used to pretend to be in the bands, and I felt heard and understood by a lot of these musicians that I would kind of listen to when I was by myself. And so that to me was like the biggest takeaway of music, is it makes people feel seen who might not feel seen. They might have feelings that they don't know how to express, or they think that they're the only ones. And so I like to write music about stuff that I'm feeling, whether it's kind of pulling from wherever it's pulling from, or it's a specific situation. I like to write about it because if I'm feeling it, I know that somebody else is. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. But a lot of people, feel alone in their kind of chaotic whatever, or their love situation, or their, whatever it might be, or their darkness. And so I try and put everything I have into whatever the focus of the song is, because if I can put my own personal experience into it, I feel like people feel that, and they get that, and it feels authentic, and it is, because it is authentic. And I've been through, like I said, I've here and there and everywhere. So I've been through a lot, ups and downs and inside outs and everything like that. So
Yes.
yeah, lots to pull from.
And then even your latest EP, Inside Out, blends raw emotion and sonic experimentation. Can you walk us through one or two songs on that record and that feel especially close to your heart?
Yeah, Inside Out, that was a very special album to me. So that was my most recent one, and I actually was able to go back to Nashville and record that with a guy named Nick Brown, and it was very cool to go back to Nashville as an artist, like as the artist going to record an album. Like for me, it was a very full circle moment to have learned everything I learned in Nashville, and then to be able to have been working on it for this many years and to go back. But to talk about, let me try to think what songs were on that album now. One of my favorite songs off of that album is Something in the Silence. I think it really hits on so many different levels, because it's about, I basically wrote it as the protagonist writing in the antagonist perspective, basically. And so it was it's a very personal situation that song's about. Honestly, multiple situations, but it's just about how people can really let you down, and people really mistreat you, and in all the ways that they do that. And and then for me, it's like leaving the situation. It's also about like those boundaries where you're like, you're leaving that situation. It's like, there's something in the silence that tells me you're as good as gone, because, when someone mistreats you, you shouldn't stick around. And, in the bridge, there's a part where it's like, why would you take me back? I don't deserve it. And like, basically I made the bed that I'm sleeping in. And so like, it's my fault, and you got to go listen to it. But it's, like I said, though, I wrote it in an alternative perspective. So that was the first time I ever did that, where I was singing as the person who had done the wrong, but I'm really the person that the wrong has been done to. And so it was interesting to take the opposite perspective of, or the perspective I think they should have. Yes. They probably don't. Anyway, that song is very, and I think that it's just really beautiful. It came out really, really beautiful. And what else is on this? So I recreated a song, I re-recorded a song called Never Be Lonely that was off my first EP. So I re-recorded that. So that's special to me. That song is special just because it's been around for a long time, and I wrote it for some really supportive friends of mine way back in the day. They asked me to write it's basically, they asked me to write their first dance song for their wedding. I was like, oh, no pressure or anything. And so I wrote that, and they loved it. And so I was really happy to give it a new life. And, but that was an older song. But the other new song off of that album, aside from Rebel on the Inside, which is like, that was like the single, whatever, my personal favorite, again, Something in the Silence and Blind. So Blind was, I love that song because I had gotten in a fight with my significant other, my fiance now, and I was like, it was an argument that we probably have had like 100 times. And I just, when you just realize you're wrong, you're like, shit, like I'm messed up. I am wrong, but this is coming, my wrong comes from such a deep place that it comes from a broken place. And so my wrong comes from a very broken place. And so I am seeing the error of my way. And, so it was an apology song, it was an apology song that I wrote, but also like it's like pretty deep though in ways. And I know a lot of people after I sing that song, honestly, especially men, mostly men, like older men, they're like, I like that. Because it's all about like, I can't see the beautiful things in front of me. I think I'm blind. Like I need you to help me because I am screwed up and I don't know, I am not seeing everything beautiful that you're doing for me. And because I am just messed up and I need you to help me because I'm blind. And so it's like a very beautiful, like message, and honestly very personal because it's very much about my own struggles. And so that's those two, Blind and Something in the Silence, are probably two of my favorite off of that album that were new.
So that I can see how that can help other listeners too.
Right.
And like you said, with other people that have commented to you. But also, you've performed bold and stripped down covers from AC/DC to Ozzy Osbourne. What draws you to reinterpreting songs that are so iconic and traditionally heavy in such an intimate way?
Right. Well, Long Island Girl, classic rock is like, everywhere. Everyone loves it. So the thing that draws me to that, certain songs in particular, I mean, like I love rock and roll. I love classic rock, all sorts of things like that, Southern rock, yada yada. But what draws me to stuff like that is the contrast, I think. Because if you listen to the lyrics, obviously I'm a big lyrics person. If you listen to the lyrics, it's like, wow, that song is so deep. And so it's kind of, and heavy metal and things like that is actually, it's very emotional and it's very deep in its own way. It's just in a different package. So I take these songs that are lyrically really beautiful and honestly, instrumentally gorgeous too. A lot of like heavy metal is like insanely complicated. And I just put a different perspective on it. I take the same words and and that's the power of like musicality, like how it changed, like the way that you're phrasing and the way that you're playing the music and the tempo and everything can entirely change the mood of the same lyrics. You can take the same lyrics and do them 100 different ways and have 100 different feelings, which is cool to me. And so I take songs that the Crazy Train one was specifically I loved, because I actually learned that because my fiance he loves like heavy metal and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, I'll learn Crazy Train. I love that song. And then I realized how crazy good the lyrics were and how deep they were. And so I'd been covering it for years. And then I was like, I want to do like my own cover of that. And you know, the other songs that I've done, it's really, I just have a connection to it in some way. And, you know, TNT kind of reminds me of my song Favorite Sin. And it's like, it's just kind of like really like there's certain parts of me that are like very edgy and very, very rock and roll. And then there's other sides of me that are very soft and very, you know, sad girl. But I really like, I don't know. I just like them. And if I resonate with something, I like to change the perspective and be like, all right, well, let's put a different spin on this. And, you know, make people see the song in a different way. And I think that that's what Crazy Train, my version of it does, is people are really like, wow, I like didn't realize that those were the lyrics. Yes. And that's cool to me.
Yeah. So I think with me personally, I with some of the classic rock, I might be drawn to the instrumental at first, and then I don't really pick up the lyrics till much later. So I think even with TNT or just with what you might do with that, I think appreciate the lyrics more.
Right. And a lot of people tell me that, and I'm like, well, that's the point, because for me, it's all about lyrics, and I find these days that no one seems to care about that anymore, and the way that they used to, at least. And no one even cares about like how quality the music is anymore either. That's time for I was gonna ask that's for another time. But you know, so that's just my effort to bring lyrics back to the front. You know, music and instrumentation is also important, super important. But like bring back good lyrics, bring back that like. You know, even those rock songs, they had such good lyrics. So it's cool, you know.
Yes.
I think people should focus on that more. But
yes. And you mentioned how you came to the North Fork. But I was going to ask, even as a child, would you come over to the North Fork at all?
You know, it's so funny. I think about this a lot, but no. The only time we came over here was my mom's from Connecticut. She's from like South Windsor. And so we would just drive through here to take the ferry when we would go visit her family. And so, but I like literally never spent any time over here. And I laugh because like Shelter Island either. And I grew up between Sag Harbor and Southampton on Noyak Road. And so it's not like I was very far from Shelter Island, but like, you didn't go anywhere as a kid, you know, like, I don't know, you just didn't go. Yeah. And now I'm there like all the time. I like work there, you know? Yeah. It's very cool. And it's very cool to now that I've lived here for like 12 years or more. I don't even know at this point. And having lived there for my early life, it's very cool to know both sides and be like, this is, you know, it's cool. It's cool perspective.
And the official first time was 2012, you said?
I think I moved here in 2012.
2012. Yeah. But I guess, what did you initially think of the North Fork when you first?
I loved it. I really loved it. Growing up as like one of the only farm kids in my school, like it sucked because everyone else's parents were like doctors and lawyers or, wealthy blue collar, because that's like whatever. And, obviously there were poor kids and whatever, but I was like one of two farm families and who were still actually farming. And you feel very like out of place. You're different. You're very different from everyone else because that's what your family does. And, moving over here, I felt like I finally like found my people, because I feel like it's the reverse over here, or at least was, where most people's family were farming, and then there were obviously like kids who had families who did other things. But a lot of families out here were farmers. And so for me, I was like, oh wow, I feel so much more connected and seen and understood over here than I did there. So I loved it here, and I loved that there was such a big art and music and like artisanal it was such like an artisanal world out here, and that's all me. Like I love that, and so I immediately fell in love out here, and I stayed. Before that, like I was somewhere different in some different career every 6 months. My parents are like, "Hey, is she gonna be all right?" But when I came here, I never left. I loved it.
Could you comment a little bit about like what you thought of the music scene out here at that time?
It was great. I mean, like there was music everywhere. I feel like it's died a little bit, and I'm like, oh God, where are the young kids? Like, please come to my gig. I'll let you play a couple songs.
Yeah.
Seriously. And it's honestly, the pandemic really did a number on it. And so like we can't blame it all on like, oh, it's this and the times. It's like, no, the pandemic killed a lot of people who just they did it for fun. And so they were just kind of in their flow. And then once that hit, people who were just doing it casually, they were just like, we can't, I'm not going to do this anymore. And so that killed a lot of that. But there is still such a beautiful, there's so many talented people out here. So many. It's crazy the amount of talented musical people there are out here. And I'm just shocked that no one has noticed on like a bigger scale, because I'm always like, I'm really proud to be a part of it. But I'm like, someday, this is like it's like what do you want to go? It's like a good reference. I want to say Muscle Shoals, but like, it's like, it's a place that like everybody comes in to be musical. And I'm just surprised that it hasn't been noticed on like a more national scale, but whatever, keep it that way kind of ish.
Yeah.
Although I'd like to benefit from a little exposure.
But I guess it could be even from 2019 onward, you've also become kind of deeply embedded in the North Fork music scene. Was that a challenge in the beginning, getting involved or working and getting your name around?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. Like I said, my friend John really helped because he was already, like, he's from Mattituck, and he was already a big part of the scene already, and everybody knew who he was. And so he really helped get my name out there, just even playing a couple songs here and there. And, having a supportive a friend like that is just invaluable in that situation. But, that's just like one piece of the puzzle. And I just, it's like when you're following a dream, you don't stop. This is what you do. And once you set your compass and you're like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other and take every opportunity that comes my way. And so that's kind of what I did. And even after the kind of crash of that high I was riding, from the pandemic, I'd never stopped. It like crushed me for a while. And then I was like, you know what? I just have to keep going and doing whatever it is that I can do to continue. And I think that really, honestly, because the pandemic like thinned everything out a lot and we just kept going, you get a lot of attention because you're one of like the handful of people who's still playing, and people are like, oh, who's that? And I think that that was a big moment for me, even though it felt like not a great moment. And I think it, brand awareness, whatever you want to call it, like, whatever you want to call it. It was like, oh, people started to see me, and that's cool. And, my skills improved over that time because you're doing, like I said, you're doing a lot of different things. And, I've just been working really, really hard at getting better on guitar and being a better singer and being a better performer, because I knew that that's the only way to reach your goals is to consistently be getting better. And so I never stopped working on that. And yeah, that's...
And you continue to perform even... I see you have multiple gigs coming up throughout the summer.
Yeah.
It's probably a tough question, but do you have one place in particular that you really enjoy, or it's like a favorite of yours to perform at?
I do. I do. Because, and I've kind of whittled it down to like, I mostly just play at the places I like to play. I'll try different things and try new things, and, I'll try anything once. But I love playing at different places for different reasons. I'll note 3 places quickly. I love, number one, First and South has been the biggest supporter of music through the pandemic since I started everything. And so I absolutely love playing there because the staff is amazing and it's just such a local spot and they're really supportive. And so I love playing there, first and foremost. Secondly, I love to play... Another, again, big supporter of music is Salt and Port. So they're owned by the same people. But like, I love playing there because I can play with my full band, and I can bring my whole band, and we can really just like have a great time playing there. And so those 2 places I love. And then the other place that I can't get enough of is the Low Tide Bar, the Soundview. That started over the pandemic too, which I'm like, praise God for that, because it's the coolest place to play. Even though the direct sun can get a little hot when you start sometimes, it's just, there is no better spot. Like, it's the best sunset in, like, I'm not going to say on Earth, but on close to it. The best sunset. I mean, the stage there, you're playing to the sunset, and it's like, this is like so glorious. And I can bring my band if I want, or I play by myself sometimes with a duo. So there you can kind of do whatever, but I think that's the most beautiful place to play. And I love that. So.
And I was curious, just for, sometimes I ask people about advice for musicians or someone that might want to start or is in high school or something, what advice you might give to someone interested in pursuing a music career today, and with the environment today, it's obviously challenging.
Right. There's challenges, and then there's opportunities that I didn't have when I was younger. I would say, if it's your dream, never give up and just keep doing it. Go to the open mics, even if you're like terrified, just go. And even if you're just sitting there and watching until you kind of get the nerve to do it, absolutely go. There used to be a ton of open mics when I first moved here, which was really helpful because it's a great way to get through those nerves and kind of build your confidence. But they do have a great one at the Greenport Brewery that they started this past winter. I think they do it on the 2nd and 4th Fridays of every month. And I think that's the only one I know of at the moment. Go to those open mics, meet people who are doing the same things that you're doing, get involved in that community of musicians and of kind of lyricists and poets, and, meet those people and just don't give up, because it's really easy to give up. But if you really have a passion for it, just keep learning as much as you can, keep working on your craft. And there are so many opportunities now. Like, you can get on Spotify at any time. Like back then, we didn't have that. That didn't exist, and so it's so cool now that kids have that opportunity. I mean, there's obviously arguments for pros and cons of that, but like to me, I just think it's great that you can get it out there, and I think it's a very cool thing. But just never give up on your dream, because like I said, I went through, so many people told me that, oh, get a real job, like this isn't the thing. Like I wish someone had been like, go for it. Because like I'll support, like, here, you should go for it, let's go do these things. Like my grandmother was probably the only person who believed in me wholeheartedly. She obviously was like, yeah, you have to support yourself, but like if this is your dream, you should go for it. And she would like tell me when all like open mics, in Southampton, when I had, moved home, she would tell me about them. And don't think that you can't do it just because everyone says you can't. And that's,
yes,
everything's hard. Choose your hard.
Or what fits with how we're supposed to be in society. And
I feel like a lot of that has changed since I was a kid, though, too, which is honestly, I think, is a good thing. When it's like, they were like, go to college, get a degree, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, cool, I graduated into a recession, I'm not going to get a job. And so all that has kind of like, thank God. I'm like, I don't think college is for everyone. No. And I didn't even want to go to college. I didn't want to go. I wanted to be a musician. And they were like, get a job, But I did. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot of things. But, I'm glad that is changing, because it's not necessary.
I guess looking back, starting from college and then all the way to today, just seeing how things have changed and where you are today, how does that feel to see where you are and doing what you love to do? So
I'll talk about a unique experience that I have coming up in August. So I got the opportunity to sing the national anthem at a Mets game.
Wow.
And so to answer that question, that has been my dream since I was like 8 years old. And I've come from a big baseball fan family, big Mets fans. My whole life, baseball, always on the TV, football, baseball, whatever. Big sports fans. And I remember vividly when I was a kid being like, I'm going to sing the national anthem at a Mets game one day. My brother probably like threw a pillow at me or something. Like, shut up. And I was like, I'm gonna one day, you see. And the fact that I'm doing it this year, like I was talking about this the other day, and I'm just like, I made it. I did it. Like I fulfilled my dream. I'm obviously I'm not done yet, but like to me, that's one of those moments where you look back on like the freaking chaotic path that you have taken, and you can see, like for me, I'm like, I never gave up on myself. I never gave up on my dream. No matter how difficult it was to follow, I have been pushing so hard in this one direction, and fractioning off here and there, but like that was always my dream, and I never gave up. And now I have the opportunity to fulfill like a huge thing. And to me, it makes me feel very proud of myself and a little justified. I don't know if that's the right word, but it just makes me feel very fulfilled. Like I have all of this struggle and the tears and the sweat and the blood, like it's all for a reason, and I'm getting there finally. And so it's cool, and I'm proud of myself.
Yes, definitely. And then just looking ahead, what are your hopes for your music and for your audience down the line?
What is my goal? My goal is to be heard a little more. It's very difficult when you put a lot of effort into a lot of things, and that all the people in your immediate circle, they love your music and they listen to it periodically and for different reasons and things like that. And that is completely invaluable to have a network of people who support you. But it doesn't always make you money. And And so for me, my goal is to make money, like an actual really good living off of playing music. And like right now I'm doing okay, but you know, if I could couple that with really like streams and, you know, national performances and things like that actually brings in, you know, more revenue. That to me is my goal. And I always used to tell my former manager, I was like, I want to be like Grace Potter famous, where you can still go get a coffee and, you know, not everyone's going to know who you are, but you know, the music industry loves you, and everyone who knows about anything, they like you and they like to use you on their records and things like that. And for me, I'm like, I would love to be like, I mean, Emmylou Harris is a little bit more well known, but like just somebody who just sings on other people's records, and they add that flourish and they add something to everything that they do. And to me, that's my vision and dream of myself as an artist, is I really just want to bring an extra level to other people's music, to my own music. And, you know, so that's kind of my vision for the future.
Absolutely.
I'm working on it.
Yes. And then just in general for the North Fork, what are your hopes for the future of the North Fork and its community down the line?
I hope that the community stays as strong as it is. You know, I think that we're going through a little bit of a rough patch. You know, unfortunately, you see a lot of for rent signs on Main Street and Front Street, and a lot of empty storefronts and things like that. And people feel kind of pressed about a lot of things. And that not only has to do with local politics, but, you know, politics, you know, in general. Our country's going through a little bit of a turbulent period. But I mean, I just hope and pray and try and support the best that I can, the artistic community, and just because it's the heartbeat of what goes on here. It has always been, I feel like the East End in general has always been an artist haven. There's something about it here that's just really inspiring. And I hope that stays, you know, and I hope that it maintains its accessibility to people of every age and stage of their life. Because right now it's like my friend Kara runs the North Fork Art Collective, and it's so beautiful going to art openings and seeing, you know, from 8 years old to like 80 people displaying their artwork and still doing that, and that being a big part of our community. And I think I really hope that for the future of Greenport for the long term.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, if you don't have a arts community or a creative
what do you have?
group,
Yeah.
It's just could be like any other
boring
place. Yes, definitely.
What are we going to have, a bunch of lawyers? That'd be boring.
Yes.
Oh my God. Convenient, but.
And then I think just lastly, I usually like to ask if there were any other things you'd like to discuss or say that we haven't talked about.
We've covered quite a bit. We have covered quite a bit. I would say that I'm doing this side project, so I would like kind of drop it in there. You know, every musician has merchandise and things like that. And so I'm kind of, I was never like a huge band t-shirt kind of girl, even though like love rock and roll, love whatever, but like I was never really that type. And when it comes to my own music, I'm like, well, you know, I have a logo and everything, but I was making some t-shirts, but I'm like, but what about something else? Everybody sells t-shirts. Everybody has that. And I'm like, how can I like reimagine this idea of music merchandise? And so I also really love to sew. And I've been learning over the pandemic. One thing I was learning, another skill I picked up over that time. And I was like, well, what if I make handbags and tote bags and things like that? Because that way people use that every day. And so they're not just wearing a t-shirt once a month, you know, they're using their bag every single day, and they're thinking about me and my music and, you know, things like that. And so I have that on my web. So visit my website, juliakingmusic.com. And it's a company called Wild Muse, and it's on my website, and it's called Wild Muse. And it is basically my reimagination of the world of music merchandise. And so handbags, totes, accessories, things like that. So
Nice.
that's my other e-commerce.
Oh, you have to. That's important.
You got to be, you have to be multi-talented, I feel like, to be in the art world, especially in the music world. You got to
Yes,
figure it all out.
definitely.
But
No, but I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast today and share your story and really bringing your wonderful music out here on the North Fork.
thank you. Thank you for having me. This was wonderful. And I love interviews. It's always fun to talk.
Definitely. Thank you.
Cheers.
Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 193 with Julia King. I want to thank you for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, and we'll see you next time.